everyone wants progress. Everyone wants progress.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's why relationships are hard too, especially when you're in that weird line of like, let's say you're dating somebody, you don't know if you're gonna get married or whatever. If you don't know progress is being made, again, wherever there's ambiguity, there's chaos.
Yep.
But when I can streamline everything and show someone directly, hey, this is getting better, it always leads to better results.
Welcome to The Growth Project, a podcast put out by AMPLOS. I'm Dr. Gabby Caviedes, and today I'm going to be joined by a great local business owner who works in the world of sports and athletics, and very excited to introduce him to all of our listeners. His name is Adekunle Olusanya.
Perfect.
Got that? Okay. Go by AK,
yes.
Right?
Well, it depends on where I'm at.
Depends on where you're at.
Some people say Adekunle, some people say Ade. If I'm fighting you, they'll say AK.
AK.
So,
okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for making the time. I'm excited to go into this conversation. You have such a interesting backstory, and you're doing such great work in the world of student athletes and training. So really excited to get into it. For our listeners, I'm sure we have some who know you, but for those who don't, walk us through how you got to where you're at today.
Okay, it's quite a long story, so it depends on how much time we have today, but just to bring it back to the beginning. So I'm from Nigeria. I was born in America, but I always say I was born in America, but I was raised in a Nigerian home. All right, in my house, you could not tell that we were in America, right? Very traditional in the way that my parents raised me, from speaking our language to the different character things they try to build in me. And so they always say in Nigeria that you have three options: engineer, doctor, or lawyer, right? The standard's very high. And so, I grew up with parents who were, they always challenged me, mentally, physically, spiritually. We believe in Christ. And so, just to give you kind of an idea, every Sunday, since maybe I was the age of 5 or 6, my dad would wake us up before church, and he would have us run around the block. And we would be, and it wasn't like your cherry good leisure jog. I mean, it was intense, right?
Wow.
And my dad would make us sing military songs. And like it got to the point where all the neighbors, they would know that like our route and our routine. And so they would come out and they would cheer for us. I don't know if it's because they felt bad for us or they were just, motivated by what we were doing. They would try to give us water. My dad would snatch it. And my dad would have a stick and everything. He really just wanted to push us. Even like when I was younger, my dad, he would have us like box kids in the neighborhood. And when the kids didn't want to box with us, we'd box their dads and uncles and stuff. And so I feel like I grew up very challenging. And sometimes in sports they say, why do we practice so hard? So the game won't be. And so I feel like I had a very challenging upbringing. And as a youth, I didn't really appreciate those things. But now as a man, I'm like, dude, Dad, thank you.
Thank you.
And we have a great relationship. And sometimes too, and we'll talk about this, but with parents, like it's that fine line between, disciplining your child, loving your child, but also setting them on the right path. And so yeah.
Wow. It really sounds like from a young age, you were pushed to your limits.
yes,
mentally,
for sure.
physically.
For sure.
Which leads into, I think, and I'd be curious to hear from you, your company, Limit Lifters. Where my head goes is you were pushed to your limits all throughout your life. And so now helping young athletes, lift their limits. Is that anywhere close to where that name came from?
Yes, yeah. So before we even got to Limit Lifters, so all the discipline, the things my dad kind of tried to instill in us, and I'm the youngest of 3 boys, so I was always getting beat up from my brothers, just like left and right. But, it makes you tougher. But taking that mentality and then ended up playing football at Furman. So when I graduated from high school, I had about 20 scholarships. Wow. And I was committed to UCF, and I really wanted to go there purely for fun. Nothing motivational, nothing like good, right? But then I had a conversation with my parents. Yeah. Furman offered me maybe like 2 or 3 weeks before signing day. And we came on a visit and we just talked about, the small school, getting away from some of the crowds that I was hanging around in Florida, and ended up being one of the best decisions. And so through my career at Furman, didn't necessarily have the career that I wanted. I got hurt a lot. Oh, man. And that's really where this is the inception of Limit Lifters, even though at the time I didn't know. But I got injured. I think I had surgery 4 times at Furman, and I've never really been hurt before. And during that time, I really struggled a lot with mental health, right? I'm here in South Carolina, but I've been an athlete my whole life, and I played every sport, right? I was always active, and it's like, okay, well, I'm no longer an athlete. Like I'm a shell of myself. I can't even do this. Like, why'd they bring me up here and give me this money? So I dealt with a lot of you can say mental. I mean, you can see. I don't think I would clinically say it was depression at the time, but now looking back and working with so many people, I was pretty depressed, and so my career didn't really go the way I wanted. I still got to play. I still got to do some things, won a championship, but it wasn't what I wanted for myself. And so during that time, I actually noticed that in a lot of my friends and a lot of my teammates, right? When you get hurt and it's like you're not being an athlete, it's like, who am I?
Right. The athletic identity piece becomes compromised.
Yes.
And it is such a big part of who you are.
Yep.
I see I'm actually working with some Furman athletes, and it is, especially through injury, like that is such a hard process to go through. I mean, the rehab alone, but then the mental side of it too.
Absolutely. And a lot of people don't talk about, you go through rehab, hey, we fix your ankle, we fix your ACL, but nobody really talks about the mental struggles.
Right.
And so when I was going through those mental struggles, a lot of missing pieces in between. But essentially, after I graduated from Furman, I partnered with a guy who started a company called Next Play. And it was made to help athletes transition from, hey, I've been an athlete my whole life. I've been playing sports. All my friends have come from here. What's next?
Yeah.
Right? Because what you find is that a lot of athletes feel like they've missed out. Oh, wow, I've been at football. I've been at this. I've been at that. I haven't had the opportunity to go get a job interview. I haven't had the opportunity to go to job fair. And so a lot of these athletes, we feel like we're missing stuff. But when you actually think about the real world, people love to hire athletes. People love the things that athletes go through that make them stronger. And so long story short, this guy's name is Kyle Muma, one of the smartest guys I know, especially in the tech world. But essentially, when we were studying and going through this thing called Next Play, we found this term called identity foreclosure, which essentially, right, if you think about your house, I'm sure you know what this is, right? But hey, one chapter of my life is over. What's next, right? And a lot of people confuse with the chapter of your life being over versus your life being over, right? And we were seeing this like in parents, and you see it in moms. Hey, I've been a mom the last 18 to 20 years. My kids are going to college. Right? A lot of times people will be depressed. Even my mom struggled with this bad, but people don't understand it's because their identity's gone. And sometimes you see it in CEOs, right? I've been running these businesses. I've been juggling all these jobs. Now all of a sudden my life slowed down. Who am I? And so upon finding that term, identity foreclosure, we started building this company, and it went really, really well. And then COVID happened. And so essentially through that process, and again, kind of dealing with depression during that time as well, we said, okay, you know what? So we kind of went our separate ways just because the company closed down. And then I said, hey, you know what? Instead of waiting for athletes to get to the end of their careers and trying to figure out what's next, how can we practice this, like just like medicine, right? Instead of waiting for you to have bad blood sugar, well, what if I started helping you with your diet beforehand, right? And so the idea of Limit Lifters came from, how can we help athletes take the success principles and lessons from sports and apply them to their life? And instead of waiting for the end of their career, how can we teach them from the front end as they're going through it? Because sometimes too, like, looking in hindsight is one thing, but when you're learning as you're going, it's a little bit more powerful. So that's essentially where Limit Lifters came from, trying to help athletes on the front end identify that, hey, success principles are universal. What makes me better in sports is going to make me better in life and relationships.
Yeah. I love the emphasis on like a preventative approach.
Yes, absolutely.
It's the same mentality I take with working with my athletes. I did a lot of work on student athlete well-being and looking at depression rates within collegiate athletes. And the problem is we don't put an emphasis on well-being until they're depressed, right? And so then we're like, oh my gosh, how do I help you now? What if we could help them before that? So it doesn't get to that point. So hearing that work is being done just really, it inspires me, and hopefully it resonates with a lot of our listeners that don't wait until it's,
absolutely,
the world is crashing and burning. Handle it early. So talk to me a little bit about where you're currently at with Limit Lifters. It's, again, local in Greenville. What does it look like, and what does it currently look like?
Man, God is good. Limit Lifters it's soaring. I can say with confidence that we are the best training facility, especially for sports. I mean, we have a lot of kids who they don't play sports, but they want to build healthy habits, and their parents want them to, build discipline, have a good body image, and things like that. But we really specialize right now in building confidence. At the end of the day, some people, everyone comes in to get faster and stronger, but at the end of the day, my job as a coach is to build belief. Right? It doesn't really matter how strong and fast and athletic you are if you don't believe in yourself. And so our job is to build belief in our athletes and even our clients. We train adults and stuff too. But the way that we do that, or the tool that we use that, is really through our sports training. And so we always say there's 3 phases of development, right? There's the physical, right? There's a mental, right? And there's a spiritual, and there's also like the actual health, right? Nutrition. And so we've gotten to the point now where we use so much science and data. Like everything we do is based off KPIs. We always say if you're not tracking, then you're really just guessing.
Yeah.
And especially with kids and people who have real goals, you don't want to just guess and hope you're doing the right exercise. You want to know for sure. And so whenever there's ambiguity, there's chaos, right? And so as long as we can build these certainties with our athletes and with our clients, everybody knows we're on the same page. So the way that we do that is when you come into our program, we do assessment, full KPI from your speed, your flexibility, your injury risk. And some of these things might change depending on your sport. And some of these things are actually similar in most sports, right? And then once we do your KPI-based line assessment, we'll hand you a piece of paper and say, hey, this is where you are, right? This is the standard. And this is, especially for an athlete who's trying to track and go to college, because we've been able to basically take all the data over the last 8 years. The data is from our own athletes and the data from other athletes around the world. And we've actually been able to reverse engineer, hey, if I'm a freshman and I want to go play at Clemson or whatever school, this is where I need to be right now physically, right? Hey, as a sophomore, this is where I need to be. Hey, as a junior, this is where I need to be. Now, the skills training, right? We do skills training as well, but our main focal point is fine-tuning the body, right? And so we've been able to actually predict what kids will run the 100-meter dash, what kids will run the 400-meter dash. Like we've been able to get the data so fine-tuned that we literally can identify where you are to the pinpoint precision, right? And so that's the physical standpoint, which is really important. And then we also have a mentorship program. So we have different books. Drew's always giving me books whenever I see him. That guy, there's not many people who read more books than me, but that guy he reads, right? Yeah. And so then we have different mentorship courses. So we have different books. One of my favorite ones is called Chop Wood, Carry Water. Yeah. Where basically, but essentially the goal behind it is like, hey, there's this book that a lot of it, the main character in the book's going to deal with a lot of things that we as people go through or the athletes go through. And then we've created our own curriculum. And so then the student athletes will have to take the lessons from the book and apply it into their life, right? We don't really care about, hey, what happened on page 2 or 3, but it's like, hey, you know what? Let's just say the main character is dealing with jealousy. Right now with social media, Instagram, athletes are seeing people getting offers. They're saying, hey, I'm better than this person, but they're playing. There's so much chaos that's happening. Yeah. And so we like the kids to self-reflect. And so I ask them like, hey, are there been any times that you ever dealt with jealousy? Where's that jealousy coming from? Because a lot of times, we experience these feelings, we experience these physical things, but a lot of times there's an underlying factor for it. I mean, you'll find out some stuff. Some kids, they're really jealous of their teammate because they have jealousy of their sibling from a long time ago. And I mean, there's so much stuff that I'm finding out. It's like you would never guess. I even had a girl one time who she had ACL surgery. And the hospital, we have a lot of partners. They contact us like, man, we just don't get. She's just not coming in. We don't know what's happening. And we found out it's because, as a lady, she said she feels like she should have beautiful legs, but every time she goes to rehab and she looks for scars, now she doesn't want to wear dresses. Now she doesn't want to wear shorts. And so that mental aspect is what was actually deterring the outcomes of her physical, right? And so a lot, again, we kind of mentioned that before. Yeah. But a lot of people don't talk about how the mental affects the physical. So. Long story short, we've been in all these different phases, and Limit Lifters has gone to the point where if you come into our building, you're going to get better.
Wow. What a great way to be able to produce outcomes,
Absolutely.
Right? Not only the physical, but the mental piece too. Absolutely. And like you said, the spiritual as well. Those KPIs, it sounds like there was so much research that went into that. I can't imagine the time that took to gather all of that data and be able to predict what metrics are needed to get to wherever individuals want to get to. Now, one thing to note is, recent, update in your life is you've become a new dad in the last year.
Yeah.
And I think it's really fascinating to hear, you've had Limit Lifters for a while, and then now you became a dad. How has that impacted being a business owner?
Yeah. First of all, I like to say I think my son's the cutest child in the world. He's so. I mean, we've been blessed, honestly. Good health. He's sleeping 11 hours a night. He's been doing that since 4 weeks. My mom was like, "Just wait till you have another one."
The second one is where.
Right. But it's really. I really had to get better with my time management. I feel like I'm a recovering workaholic, and so especially to build the company to the way that we've done it. Look, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, do it with the team. And we have an amazing team. One of the biggest testimonies I can give actually about my team is that I didn't have to work for 6 weeks after my son was born, and that was awesome. I kept trying to grab the phone. I kept trying to go to the gym, but I could trust my staff. But I really have had to get better at my time management. And just balancing. Hey, and this is something that everyone goes through, right? Like so. My business, right? Being a good husband, being a good father. But just, I feel like my eyes have been open to what's really important in life. And I've always known that relationships were important, which is why we have our company. But being there for my son has been important. And when you really think about it, especially as parents, because they're always asking us, what can we do? What can we do? I mean, there's nothing you have to do, just be there. And a lot of times being there and not saying anything and just observing and just being present is the most important thing you can do for your child or, you know, your wife or your partner.
Yeah.
And so he's still young, right? So there's not like a lot of adversity and stuff like that, but it's really opened my eyes to like, I really want to do this for him.
Yeah.
And then taking the time to be home and do nothing. Like our world moves so fast. You can grab your phone, you can do this. There's always an opportunity. But how many times have people just sat there and did nothing?
Nothing.
Like, when was the last time you talked to a baby? Right? When was the last time you had a conversation that didn't move you forward in business? Right. And so it's been really eye-opening just to be still with my son.
You're hitting on one of the most important factors for mental rest and well-being. It's detachment, right?
Yeah.
That ability to separate yourself
Absolutely.
from the busyness, from the stress, from the demands. But to your point, what we found through research is that people struggle to do that because, you know, like you said, the world doesn't stop moving, but you have to be okay with prioritizing detachment so that you can be present for those that matter most to you.
Yeah. And people don't understand, like there's some tools that might be really good for you in this season, but they're not great for you in the next season. And so part of my drive, right, and I told you how I got brought up pretty challenging was, don't be lazy. Hey, we're an immigrant from Nigeria. You have to like leave your mark and you have to work hard and you have to do this. So it was great, right? It was great in sports to use that kind of underdog approach. And it was great to always keep going. But in this season of my life, that doesn't serve me, right? And so now where I need to be still, right? Where I need to be patient, right? Where, hey, not every day is going to be necessarily a milestone, right? If you, and especially you guys as psychologists, you guys are always uncovering things from like I've heard from a psychologist before, my personal therapist, like, hey, everything that's happening to you right now is from the first 7 years of your life, right? So those skills that made me a great football player, those skills that made me a good businessman, they might not serve me as a husband, right? If I'm always impatient, always trying to get to the next thing, well, how does that work when you and your wife are having a sensitive conversation? Or when someone's talking about something that maybe it doesn't necessarily affect you in the same way, but where's your empathy? And so starting to understand that, if you want to be successful in life, you have to have different tools, right? And there's different times to use those things. And I feel like the best leaders, they know when and how to use the different tools at their disposal.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of values come up and a lot of variety in the values in that there's discipline, there's patience, but there's also urgency, there's hard work, empathy. And I completely agree. You cannot deny the fact that in different seasons of your life, you have your values placed on different areas. And you need to for success and for well-being. Now, one facet of your life, so we've talked about limit lifters, we've talked about your family a little bit. You personally, though, you also are pretty big in MMA. And I would love to hear a little bit more about that.
Some people think I'm too nice to fight, but I'll fight. It just depends on what side you see. What's going to have to pull out.
Well, I was going to say, for our listeners, if they're just hearing you talk, about the work that you're doing and the way you speak about your family, like, wow, what a nice, like, empathetic, emotionally intelligent. And then you've got this. Well, he's also an MMA fighter, and he will go into the ring with anybody who wants to fight him.
And so martial arts, it's so fun, and I actually enjoy it more than I enjoy football for a lot of reasons. One, I feel like you're always learning, right? Like, sports, football, basketball, all these different sports, I feel like they're finite. Right. As a receiver, there's certain things I can do as a DB, but like in fighting, you and I could have the same coach for 7 years and have completely different fight styles, right? I could fight this person and this works, and I could fight this person and it doesn't work, right? And so it's like you're really playing chess with not just your body, but your emotions, being able to stay calm in the midst of adversity. Like you want to face some adversity, go in the ring. And so I do practice MMA, martial arts, but I'm mostly a kickboxer, Muay Thai fighter. So it's basically stand-up striking. And so I've been doing that for 6 or 7 years, and I've had a great career, title fights, big fights, fighting here locally. Had the opportunity to actually represent Team USA in 2024. Wow. But unfortunately, because I had to keep my priorities straight with business and working this, I wasn't able to go. But I've had some good results in fighting. And so, fighting is great because when I'm in the ring, I'm not necessarily, obviously, yes, there's someone trying to punch you and kick you. But my biggest fear every time is not being the best version of myself. Like, I can lose a fight, but if I really perform to the highest level, I'm cool. I've had some fights where I've knocked somebody out and I was disappointed in myself because I felt like I wasn't the best version of me. And that's really the thing. That's a struggle that a lot of us have to deal with. And I think especially men, am I good enough, right? And am I good enough to perform at what I know I can do? It's different when you're at practice or when no one's with you and the lights aren't bright. But when there's thousands of people screaming and your opponent has a will of his own, right? He's not just like, oh, hey, AK, come beat me up. No, he wants to take, he wants to take what you have and vice versa. So being able to stay calm in the midst of adversity, it's really helped me in other areas of life. I never would have thought that, like, hey, fighting's going to help me in the way I do business. Fighting's going to help me in the way that I react at home. Fighting's going to help me really just to stay calm under pressure. That's like the biggest thing. If you watch me fight, you're going to be like, oh, man, this guy has no emotions. Like, but I'm just really just trying to keep myself calm. I'm trying to stay composed, especially as life throws so many different punches at us.
Yeah, it is interesting because I think the stereotype around fighters is that they are just these rage-fueled, uncontrolled.
There are definitely some rage-fueled fighters. I will say that for sure.
And I'm sure there are. But, I think that what I've seen, and I'm new to the world of MMA and I'm new to the world of UFC, but what I've seen is that the best fighters are very calm and composed and controlled.
Absolutely.
So, it is a skill. I've also seen that moment when you're getting ready to go into the ring, like that has got to be one of the most mentally demanding, high pressure moments. What goes through your mind when you're getting ready to step into the ring?
Over the last 3 years, my fights have either been like championship fights or number one contender fights. And I've really only fought against either champions or number one contenders, right? So all my fights have been like late at night, like main events and stuff like that. I mean, so you're just sitting there all day. And there's so much to it. There's weight cutting, but just talking about the fight itself, like when I used to play football, I think there's almost like they talk a little bit of like a gang mentality, right? Like I might be scared or nervous, but you're my teammate. And if you have good energy and stuff like I might be able to borrow your energy. I think that's one of the biggest skills that people don't really talk about, right? The ability for people to borrow your energy, right?
Feed off of each other.
I'm scared or nervous, but you're not. And so now I borrow your confidence. And fighting, it don't really happen like that, right? And so I used to listen to like a lot of like, rap music get me hype and stuff. But now if you come into the locker room, I'm listening to praise and worship. I'm on my knees, I'm praying. I'm just trying to find so much stillness. So that way I can actually be present in the moment, right? When you just fill yourself with chaos or this or that just to kind of block the noise or whatever, you're not really stepping into who you really are. And I think a lot of times with people, we don't really face the man in the mirror. That's what it is. Like you don't really face the man in the mirror. Like I've watched fights where you see people lose, but they really lost themselves, right? They started to get tired. They started to get fearful. Then they started to act according to that, which then led to their demise in the ring, right? And so it's the moment before the fight, right? You have a lot of nerves, a lot of anxiety. You're just waiting all night. You're watching your teammates fight. That's the hardest thing, watching when your teammates fight on the same card as you, because you're emotionally invested in that. And sometimes they win and it can give you a boost. Sometimes they lose. And so, but trying not to carry the weight of their outcome. But the day of the fight, just trying to be as calm as possible, stick to my routine, right? And then when the fight happens, just let it loose. Let God take care of the result.
Yeah, the pre-performance routines, I emphasize this a lot with any of the athletes I work with is, game day and even the night before game day. Like, what is your process? And if you don't have a process to set you up for success, then you're preparing to fail. And people don't understand. I mean, fighting is different. Like the weight cut's probably the worst part because you really are fighting yourself. Like your urge to eat, your urge to stay disciplined, and the weight. I don't know how many people know about weight cuts, but essentially, a lot of time. I'm gonna try to give you a quick synopsis. A lot of times people, like, so for instance, I walk around at 195 pounds, but I've fought as low as 167. Wow.
And so it's just a manipulation of water, salt, carbs, and everything like that. So you don't actually lose that weight. Like, for instance, my next fight's going to be at 179. So I'm going to be walking, in the next 6 weeks, I'll be walking around like at 190. So, right, do I lose 11 pounds the day of the fight? No, right? You manipulate the water and carbs, but then you get back to the fight and you'll be back to your normal weight, right? But even just like being disciplined, and then also you're still training, but you're not really eating. So essentially you eliminate salt, you eliminate carbs from your diet, right? So no seasoning. Right, no bread, no rice, no all the things that you like. Right now, you can do some carbs if you time it up with your training and things like that. But essentially, you're on a very restricted diet. Right, so you're battling that fatigue. And then even for me, man, I'll be training the kids, and the kids know when I have fight week, you got one time for me to tell you. If I have to repeat myself, just forget about it, dude.
That patience goes out the window.
Yeah, and so, but yeah, you're battling with that. Like, you know, I remember I had a fight. Oh my God, my friends that came over and they're eating Chinese food, they're eating Skittles and pizza. They didn't even care. But again, I signed up for it, right? And so you're going through that process, pretty much like, you know, the last week or so, you know, getting your diet down, and then the actual weight cut is when you actually sit in a sauna or you sit in a salt bath, and you actually like lose the water weight. So that's actually what the cutting is. And so like my last fight, I think I woke up the day of weigh-ins at 179 or 178, and I had to cut 7 or 8 pounds for my championship fight. And it's brutal. You literally just sit in the water bath for 15 minutes or so. You wrap yourself in a blanket like a burrito, and you just go lay in and you just literally sweat. Have you ever sweat 8 pounds laying down? Like, people don't understand how hard that is.
That's a lot.
So to do that the night before, then to weigh in, and then to fight the urge to eat all the junk food in the world, and then to go fight the next day.
Sheesh.
You know, it's a lot. And you even talk about sports psychology, like I'm a pretty lean guy. I like walk around like probably like 7 to 8% body fat. And usually like when I fight, I'm usually like at 3 or 4, which is not healthy, by the way. Don't recommend it. But even you get body dysmorphia. You do. You look lean and you look cut, and then you all of a sudden you're like, hold on, what is this, right? Yes. And so even like, man, me and my wife have been talking a lot about this because, you know, especially having kids, pregnancy, and different things like that, you don't always look how you used to look. But there's a lot of factors you have to deal with psychology. Some of them before the fight, some of them after the fight.
Right. In a similar vein, I have a lot of friends who compete in bodybuilding. Okay, yeah. And seeing them go through prep phases, the cuts, and then following through with like a bulking phase, like the mental toll that takes in terms of you know, body dysmorphia is hard. And then people don't realize, like, when you are putting your body through that much stress of those weight cuts, not only is it hard on you mentally and physically, but I mean, your hormones become all out of whack. Cortisol. Yeah, skyrockets. It's a tough thing to do. So the grit that takes is next level. Yeah, for a lot of people, I mean, we always try to coach people like, hey, like the weight cuts, it's all hard, but the weight cut's the hard part, the fight's the fun part, it's the reward, right? A lot of times you'll hear people say, you got to make somebody pay for that weight cut. So when you go in the ring, you take it out on That's
them.
Your mentality,
But man, I like to do hard things. So part of the reason I like to fight is because most people are not willing to wake up, get in the ring, and fight in front of thousands of people, right? And then losses in fighting is a little bit more personal, right? Because we might have a football game, we all lose together, still sting, still hurt, still gonna bring a lot of emotion. But when you lose in the ring, like there's no blame. I mean, some people like to blame, but like it's just you in there, you know. And so it's a little bit different. But I'm thankful I haven't got hurt. And some people get hurt. And I've hurt some people, you know, in the ring physically. And so it's a different sport. It's a fun sport. I don't really know how many more fights I have left. I talked to my wife about that, but I enjoy to do it. Yeah.
Well, it's an interesting area to be in, and I'm sure it sounds like you've learned a lot through it, in terms of getting that calmness and that composure in those high pressure, high emotion situations. My tie into this is now you're working with young athletes primarily. I mean, you train adults and things too, but you have a big portion of your client base is young athletes. So talk to me a little bit about what principles you're instilling in those athletes and how that shows up in your training sessions.
So I'm a pretty chill guy. The only time different times call for different tools, right? But really, like, you can ask my kids, the thing that makes me upset the most, or at least it pisses me off the most, is when they quit. Because quitting doesn't happen in isolation. Quitting is something that if you do it once, it's gonna bleed into other things. And I feel like right now we live in a society where it's very easy to quit. And what I mean by that is, especially like with social media and the dopamine, right? Hey, I don't like what you say, unfollow you. Hey, I don't like what you say, I'm gonna leave the group chat. I feel like a lot of people are avoiding hard conversations. And so when I see kids quit, maybe something was difficult. A lot of times you see like they just don't understand how to do it. They don't get it on the first try, so they stop. That to me is like, I see beyond what's happening right now in the exercise, right? I'm like, no, you're showing me that when things get challenging or tough, or when you face adversity, you quit. But guess what? Whether you play sports or not, relationships are difficult, right? There's crucial conversations you might need to have with your boss. There's crucial conversations you might have to have with your parents, right? And if you build the habit of quitting, you're not going to all of a sudden be like, okay, well, I'm not going to quit. No. And so when kids quit, that's one of my biggest pet peeves. And so I'm a real stickler for that, right? Even let's say it's a 10-yard sprint. if you stop at 9.5 yards, make you take your butt back, do it all over again, right? And so we are big, again, we're always trying to teach life lessons. So one of our biggest things is not quitting, right? Finishing what you started. And then also just having fun too. A lot of kids aren't having fun. There's a lot of pressure for everybody to go to the NBA or WNBA or to go to college and go D1. And like one of the things when I first started, I'm like, everyone's going to college. But I realized, you know, there might be a girl that I'm training that, you know, maybe before she got to us, she might not have really played on her high school team. Yeah. But taking a girl from, hey, I've never played, or not never played, but hey, I'm just going to be on the bench, to, hey, you know, my senior year, I was able to hit a game-winning shot, or I was able to be a contributor. That's a big deal, because it doesn't end with sports, right? This is just a small step along the way. And so getting kids to understand that you want to train to be the best, but being the best isn't always the indicator of your success, right? There's a lot that happens with the journey. If I prepare like I'm the best, so we train every athlete like they're going to play in college. Right. Not necessarily because I do want them to play in college, but not because like that's the end goal. But if you train like the best along the way, the things you'll learn will carry you through in life. Yeah. And so just trying to get that to our kids, and just, you know, for them to have fun, man, because there's so much pressure now with social media, and every day you get online, this kid got recruited, and every day you get online, this kid's ranked top 10. I mean, you got top 10 rankings for fourth graders. Who cares about that? Like puberty, sometimes that's just puberty, right? Yeah. And so there's a lot of damage, I think, that happens in society. So my job is really to protect their mental. And so again, making sure they work through adversity, also making sure they have fun, and just teaching them life skills along the way that comes in the training room. Yeah,
that piece of the pressure that young athletes are experiencing is so different than it was even 20 years ago, right? Like social media is one. Oof. The recruiting process has become crazy. I mean, I know freshmen who are being recruited, freshmen in high school being recruited, and you know, verbally committing to a school as a freshman. That is, to me, that is crazy. Doesn't make any sense. But it is a part of the world we live in now. So the fact that you are taking this approach of life skills, it is so crucial and needed for our young athletes. So the programming piece, Drew's son comes to you, and I've heard just great things about the programming you do. And it comes from a very knowledgeable background in exercise physiology. Yes. So can you walk us through, like, how do you program for different ages, different weights, different sports? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So the first thing I'll say is that there's many ways to skin the cat, right? The results speak for itself. And, you know, and over the last 6 years, we've helped over 150 athletes go to college, from SEC to D1AA. Like we've helped a lot. So because of the results, I know what we're doing is working. But for a lot of people, there's a lot of different ways to train. And what works for you might not work for this person, right? And so we always start with our KPIs. We're always gonna do an assessment. It just makes sense. Let me find out where you are first, okay? And then knowing what we know with the data, okay, this might be where you need to get to, but what needs to be optimized in you, okay? So when the kids come in, we'll look at them, all right? The things I always look through is, what are the demands of your sport, right? There is now this word sport specific gets thrown around a lot, not saying that it's not true, but I don't think it has as much merit as people think. Because really, if you're under the age of 18 and you're in high school, if you get more athletic, stronger, more powerful, faster, it's gonna make you better in your sport. That's kind of the first piece, right? General preparedness, right? If I have a weak athlete, whether they play soccer or they need to get stronger, right? And so the first things we look at with the individual is their injury risk, okay? Because no matter how strong you are and how fast you are, if you're hurt, you can't contribute, right? And the best ability is availability, right? And we always say we'd rather you be 100% healthy and 80% fit than 100% fit and 80% healthy, right? And if people don't understand, like, my job is not necessarily to make you stronger and faster. My job is for you to be healthy, to be able to perform, right? I have to take care of your body and your mental. And same thing with the mindset, right? You might be 100%, but if every time you're getting nervous when your coach talks, like, that's also part of it too. But to answer your question, so we always start off with, what are the risks of the sport? Where is this athlete at? Individualized programming is more important than sport-specific programming, right? And so once we look at where the gaps are, we're always going to try to improve their speed, all right, their strength. And how I always look at it is there's a general timeline, right? Also too, like, are they in season or in the off season, right? There's a lot of components to how you train, and how I train you between February and April might be different than how I train you in the summer. So again, there's a lot of different moving parts, but at the end of the day, every athlete needs to get stronger. Every athlete needs to get faster. Every athlete needs to get more explosive. And every athlete needs to have an awareness of their body. That's another thing that I think a lot of kids are missing. I don't know if it's because they're on their phones all day. Like, I don't really know what it is, but there's not a lot of body awareness. If I can't tell my body what to do and have it do it when I want to do it, that's when injuries happen, right? When I'm trying to react to somebody moving and stuff like that. And so we work on a lot of proprioception, but we work everything from the ground up, right? If my feet are messed up, it's going to lead to problems in the knees, it's going to lead to problems in the hips, which will travel up the body. So kind of a varied answer to what you're saying. But again, like, it just really just depends on the athlete. But in general, speed, strength, injury prevention are always going to be the first things that we look at to help an athlete grow.
So let's say I bring my kid into your facility and wanting to get them started. The first thing you do is take them through an individualized KPI assessment.
Yep.
From that point, then you create the individualized plan. Are all of my kids' training sessions then one-on-one? Are they group based off of similar like KPI metrics?
So yes. So there's a couple different possibilities, and sometimes too. So when we do the assessment, I'll make a recommendation, right? So let's just say you might be really athletic, but you really struggle with confidence. It might not make sense to throw you in a group with a bunch of other kids, even though from a physical standpoint, you can handle it, right? So when we do our KPIs, we'll make our suggestions. Hey, based off this, we think you should do all one-on-ones. Based off this, hey, you can do all group. Hey, based off this, you should do a one-on-one. So our most popular program is a hybrid program because I really believe that individual attention is great, right? I need to be able to look at you and just work on what you need, but you cannot replace competition. I don't care what you say, like what you think you need an individual standpoint. Everything is a competition right now, right? And if I don't know how to turn that competitor on, it's not going to work, right? So my always recommendation is to do both, one-on-one and group. And then we'll make your customized workouts based off what we find in the KPI, and then we'll retest you in 3 to 4 months. And then there's some improvements here. Like, so when you first came in, flexibility might have been the biggest thing. But hey, 3 and 4 months later, if we were able to work on that enough, doesn't mean we're going to abandon it. But now there might be something else that we need to work on.
Yeah, it's a really unique process that you go through because I think what I've seen in a lot of training facilities is you go in, bring your kid in, and it's like, great, we'll get them in their age group class. But by the sounds of it, like, your setup is very different in that it is much more individualized. But then there's still this ability and component to have that group training in there. Very unique. So I heard you talking to Drew when you walked in about his son kind of hitting benchmarks. Can you explain to our listener what benchmarks are? Primarily because from my background in performance psychology, motivational principles are so important, right? Absolutely. And those process-oriented short-term goals, especially for young athletes, really keep them motivated, but also increase their confidence.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like that's what those benchmarks are built in for. Yeah,
so the benchmarks do a couple of things. One, they keep us honest as coaches, right? You're going to come in, you're going to pay a certain amount of money. You want to know that it works, right? And it's kind of like a receipt. Hey, when you can look at these benchmarks from August 1st and then in December, if they got better, you got your money's worth. But for the kids, it's so important because I feel like a lot of kids, they don't believe in themselves, right? Yeah. And it's easy to believe in yourself when things are going well, but how about when you're facing that challenge? And so the cool thing about the KPI is that we have all the files, so you can pull up at any time. The cool thing is that, we might have been doing this lift or whatever, and then, hey, let's go do your broad jump, right? And your broad jump's 6 inches higher than what it was, or farther than what it was 3 months ago. Well, guess what? You're like, oh, snap, I'm getting better. And everyone knows in sports, confidence is everything. Oh, right? If I know that I'm getting better in the weight room, I now know that I'm going to be better on the field. And we always do a good job of trying to help parents and kids understand, okay, hey, because your broad jump's getting better, this is what you can expect, right? So broad jump has a strong correlation with how fast you are in your first 3 to 5 steps, right? So Nate's a receiver. Hey, Nate, since your broad jump's getting better, you can anticipate that you'll be better off the line as a receiver when you're attacking a defender. And because you're going to be faster off the line, it gives you more options, right? And so even his bench press went up. And that's something that Nate's really excited about. And boy, look, every boy loves the bench press. Someday I'm like, dude, like bench press.
I don't think that ever goes away.
No, it doesn't. And honestly, when you look at all the metrics, I'm not saying it's not important. It's definitely important, but it's not the most important. But coach, can we bench? Coach, can we bench? I'm like, dude, no, we don't need a bench today. But again, being able to see your numbers go, I don't care who it is in the world. I don't care if they're an athlete, professional. Everyone wants progress. Everyone wants progress. And sometimes that's why relationships are hard too, especially when you're in that weird line of like, let's say you're dating somebody, you don't know if you're gonna get married or whatever. If you don't know progress is being made, again, wherever there's ambiguity, there's chaos. But when I can streamline everything and show someone directly, hey, this is getting better, it always leads to better results. So essentially we have 15 different KPIs we can take, but just depending on the sport, some of them might change. But there's 6 generic KPIs that we take. So the 10-yard dash, which is your ability to go from 0 to 10, right? Your initial speed, 5 into 10, which is basically your ability to pick up momentum and to keep running. So how much speed, how much momentum can you pick up in 5 yards? Your broad jump, your vertical jump, your ability to jump up high, your ability to jump out, bench press and squat, right? And then we also do the 5-10-5, which is your lateral agility. But some sports might, like for instance, your golfer might not need your 5-10-5. But the first 6 I mentioned, we always do that no matter what the athlete is or which sport it is, because those are going to correspond to every single
core
sport.
The core KPIs. It is, so true that we all want to see progress.
Absolutely.
And what I love though is in your explanation, it's not only, look, you went from, this number to this number. It's here's how this translates to your on-field or on-court performance. And that's what keeps kids interested. They don't really care. I mean, they do care about the numbers, but they also want to know, well, what does this do for me as an athlete?
Am I getting better? I mean, we ask ourselves that question every day. Am I getting better as a psychologist? Am I getting better at podcasts? Am I getting better at speaking? Like, we all want to make progress.
We
like,
do.
And when you're making progress, you're more likely to stay in it. When you're not making progress, that's a lot of times where people will quit. I feel like I'm not, this relationship's just, every time I talk to my boyfriend, girlfriend, they don't listen. That's not progress. Therefore, you want to exit. Like that, that's what people aren't understanding. At the end of the day, we're all chasing the same stuff. But if you can have certainties, that's where people feel more confident.
Right. Well, I know we're getting close to our time here. It's been a really great conversation. Kind of the last area I wanted to touch on is, this summer camp that we're going to be collaborating on. I'm really excited about it from our first conversation. I got all fired up. It's really going to be an opportunity for athletes to come into Limit Lifters, get a real taste of your training, and then also get a sprinkle of the mental skills, sports psychology. This summer camp, talk to us a little bit about how it came about, and then we'll kind of go into what to expect on the physical side.
Everything starts with relationships. So we also have an in-house PT, by the way, which is it's been great. Flashpoint Performance, Matt Hannon and his team. And so basically, I think I don't know why you went in there, but I don't know if you went in there, you had a conversation. But Matt's always like, hey, I met this person at the gas station. You should talk to him. I'm like, okay. And so he's always like sending people and stuff like that. He told me about you and how you're working. And he was like, so he didn't mention AMPLOS at first. He was just mentioning, hey, sports psychologist. And then he was like, AMPLOS. I was like, AMPLOS. I was like, me and Drew are like this. As a matter of fact, people don't know this, but 4 or 5 years ago, when I first started working with Nate, I wanted to I want to be a sports psychologist. It was like a pride thing. I wanted to be the only person who was certified in strength training and sports psychology. And Drew was like, nah, you don't need to go. And it was, I'm happy that he told me that. But long story short, mention AMPLOS, mention you. And so then I was like, I'm just gonna take a leap of faith. I'm just gonna call her. And I called you. We had a great initial conversation, and we shared a lot of the same, I feel like, core principles and mindset, and we understanding that just how sports psychology plays a role in your sports, and how vice versa, how sports or your physical preparation of your body plays a part in your mental. And so just us talking, being like-minded, me knowing Drew, kind of brought about this. And the biggest thing I loved about what you guys do, and especially your conversation, is that this is, a lot of people don't understand, and I hope these kids really take advantage of that. What you guys do is so awesome, but you don't typically get access to this at the local level, right? Professional setting, or the college setting.
Right.
But you don't really get it at the high school level. And guess what? We talked about this before, prevention. Why? We don't have to wait. If we can help these kids right now, it'll really help them. And so after our conversation, I got fired up as well. And so when people come to this program, they can expect a couple of things. One, expert training, right? We're going to be training you for about 60 to 75 minutes, taking you through kind of a little bit of a taste of a Limit Lifters workout. We'll work on speed, we'll work on strength, we'll work on injury prevention, and then we'll let the masters talk, and we'll give you guys an opportunity, another, again, about an hour and a half to 90 minutes of you guys talking about different tangible skills. That's what I'm really excited about, and hopefully you'll talk more about that here on this podcast. But people are gonna walk away not only feeling better and getting faster and stronger, but they're gonna have tangible skills to attack life. That's what I'm excited about.
Yes, and on our end, those tangible skills are so crucial, because I can sit here and talk to a kid all day long about confidence and building confidence or regulating their emotions, but putting that into practice is really where I like to spend the majority of the time because they lose interest. If you're just telling them, here's what confidence is, here's how you build it. No, like, well, how do I put this into practice? And so we'll be doing a lot of interactive trainings on the mental side as well. Putting them through like high pressure situations and how do you integrate breathing techniques or mindfulness to regulate in those moments. So I'm really excited about it. And the dates for that, it's going to be in June.
Yes.
So I think we've solidified the dates.
Yep, June 16th to June 18th. I think that's a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Yes.
And if I remember correctly, I think we're going to be going from, I think it's going to be from 9 to 12 or 10 to 1. But we will confirm that as we send that out. But it'll be midday.
Yes.
It'll be about a 3-hour camp. So come ready to work, come ready to learn. And I think it's going to be a great experience for everybody who's involved. Yeah,
we're excited about it, and there's more details to come. Yep. So keep an eye out for that if you have kids and are interested in having them join this camp. To close it out here, just a final question: like, what's next for you and Limit Lifters?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we're trying to do some expansions. We're trying to get a new facility, but we really want to be a hub of good information for people in the community, whether it's training, whether it's being able to link people to sports psychologists or PTs. We want people to be able to trust that when they come to us, they're going to get better, whether it's through our hands or it's through people that we know or connecting them. But the most important thing, I want people to know our hearts. Okay, at the end of the day, we really do care. And like any one of my coaches could have the same podcast with you and we a lot of similar principles. But Limit Lifters was really built off this principle that comes from the Bible, that comes from the book of Proverbs, that teach a child in the way they should go, and as they get older, they'll never depart. And that's where preventative medicine and preventative techniques and preventative, whatever you want to call it, come from, right? We want to make sure these kids are set up for a life of success in sports, in business, in relationships, right? That takes work too. And when people come to Limit Lifters, there'll be no limits. That's where that name came from.
I love it.
We just want to help people unveil the veil of life and just find what's best for them.
Yeah. That's great. And how can our listeners get in touch with you or find you, social media?
Yep. So our website is easy, limitlifters.com. You can always submit an inquiry and that'll get to our team and we'll get back to you. If you want to watch a lot of the stuff that we do, my personal Instagram is AK, the Limit Lifter. And the Limit Lifter page is just Limit Lifters. And so we post a lot of content from the things we talk about, post a lot of content from the actual drills and exercises that you're doing and what the kids are doing. And so if you just go on there, you look at our reviews, you'll see that this is the best place to train. There's other places that are great, but there's not a lot of places that can guarantee your success. Yeah.
And we can attest to that. Yeah. Right? It is the best, best place if you're looking for somewhere to send your kid, not only for the physical, but the mental. Highly support all the work that you're doing.
Parents, you're welcome too. You guys need to train too. I'll tell you this, when your child sees you training and taking care of your body and practicing what you're preaching, that is the biggest influence. Because a lot of these kids, let's just say you come in twice a week, that's 2 hours out of the week. A lot of that time they're with you, right? They listen to you. And a lot of times too, I've seen with parents, not to go on a tangent, but if I'm yelling at you to work hard and do this, but then you're not doing it, it doesn't, the message doesn't hit the same. That's part of the reason why I fight, right? Everything that I'm preaching to the kids, I do the same workout. Sometimes I'll jump in the workout and show the kids who's boss. But when the kids see me compete, they're like, oh, wow, like this guy, right? It's not like a coach who's 300 pounds trying to teach them on speed, right? It's right. We're practicing what we preach. So at the end of the day, that's the biggest thing you can do for your kids, right? They'll do what they see, not what they hear.
Gosh, it is so true. Well, thank you so much, Adekunle, for being here, for being on the podcast. We'll be sure to link all of the links to your website and pages for any of our listeners who are interested to find out more information. And please stay tuned for further updates on the summer camp. We look forward to seeing you all again on the next Growth Project podcast. Thank you.